And I'm just starting to record so that we can have this distributed to anyone that was not able to make it to
That's
the
great. That's a
live
great idea.
meeting. Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen in just a moment, but I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jennifer Saramboli, and I'm the founder and CEO of Studio B. And at Studio B, we specialize in well-being for people, whether those people are subscribing to our innovative technology platform on their own, or whether their employer is purchasing subscriptions for their team. What we really focus on is providing connection with expert teachers from all over the world in the fields of mindfulness, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, emotional intelligence, conscious communications, and other mindful living methods and practices. So I'll give you a peek on that platform later on, but tonight's discussion is to provide you with some tools so that you could begin taking better care of yourselves. So I'm just going to move a couple things around. Can everyone see my presentation in their screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we named this presentation, Put Your Oxygen Mask On First, because as women, specifically as women in particular, we tend to take care of everyone and everything else. And we naturally kind of push ourselves down on the list. And it actually works in the opposite way when we do that. So I'm here to try to convince each of you tonight to start prioritizing your health first. And so I'm hoping to present a compelling case. Just know this, that these practices of compassion, practices of kindness and empathy, these self-care practices from the heart, taking care of the heart, are practices, are skills that can be and should be trained up. However, it's a natural human capacity for human beings to want to care for others, especially women. From a hormonal perspective, from a physiological perspective, from a cognitive and neurological perspective, we are wired to be a compassionate beings, okay? We are also hardwired for survival, and you all know this because you're very high-performing professionals. So when the job needs to get done, we can get the job done. But that stress can also have quite an impact on our physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and cognitive well-being. Okay, so if we go too long without attending to self-care, we could very quickly spiral out hormonally and chemically in the body. And that could have really incredible impact to actually our brain functioning. So when we're stuck in that stress response and we're just kind of pushing through, we could only do it for so long before we actually lose access to higher functioning in the prefrontal cortex. And especially for attorneys that are working on complex cases and looking for creative solutions and innovative solutions when we're problem solving, which I know you're doing that all day long, every day. You need to have access to the creative part of the brain. You need to have access to higher level functioning and thinking so that you could come up with plans and you could implement those plans and pull them out. So what happens when we are flooding the brain with the stress hormones of adrenaline and cortisol day after day, and that goes on for a long time unattended, is we actually get stuck in a very old part of the brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala is near the limbic part of the brain. It's known as the lizard area of the brain because it's hardwired to just keep us alive. So when we're stuck in those hormones that are related and chemicals related to stress, we are actually just wiring the neural pathways around the amygdala, that neural pathway, it's called neuroplasticity in the brain, gets stronger and stronger and stronger and kind of holds us there. And then the other pathways into the parts of the brain that I mentioned before, the prefrontal cortex specifically, loses that strength. So we actually, when we're caring for ourselves in using these practices that develop awareness, that develop compassion, that develop kindness to oneself and then others, what we're actually doing every time we sit down and drop into present moment awareness through these practices is we are strengthening the neural pathways in the brain. So we'll talk about that more as we go along. Any questions before I move on? Okay. When we are training up in compassion, we are also at the same time, which may sound backwards, we are also at risk of compassion fatigue. Why? Right? So what is the difference between developing compassion or training it up, as I've been speaking of, and compassion fatigue? Does anyone have a good guess here? What is the difference? Why would we need to train up in compassion if we're also suffering from compassion fatigue? That's really the question. Okay. Compassion fatigue happens when we're constantly taking care of everyone and everything around us, but failing to attend to ourselves in the same way. So there's actually a lot of studies, hundreds, if not thousands of studies at this point, coming out of universities all over the world, but specifically out of UCLA and the University of Arizona, where a doctor, her name is Kristin Neff, is doing, and that's spelled capital Neff, is doing incredible work on the compassion practices. And what we know is that when we take a moment to just attend to self-care in a kind way, that there's not only tremendous benefit to avoiding compassion fatigue for everyone else, but we actually enjoy the chemicals of kindness within ourselves, like oxytocin, this connecting hormone. It's the same hormone that we experience when we're falling in love. It's the same hormone that we experience when we're nursing our new baby or holding a child or even a puppy, right? It's that connecting and bonding hormone that fills us with these thoughts of loving kindness. And when we do that, all of the stress response is very much reduced. And we have access to that same higher functioning that I spoke of before. So mindfulness practices, this development of moment-to-moment awareness, is only one part of the equation. The other half of it, in feeling better due to a consistent long-term practice like this, is actually training up in the heart practices. So the metta practices, you may have heard that word, metta, the loving kindness practices. And where we start with these practices is with oneself. So we're going to move through an experience in just a moment so that you could get a taste of what this feels like. Okay? The goal here when we're looking at practices is to make sure that you all understand that these practices don't need long periods of time every day in order to work. What the studies tell us is 5 to 10 minutes a day of attending to self-care in this way is transformative. So, in other words, even on the busiest days, if you just stop and pause and drop into this present moment for just a few minutes, it has significant benefit. So we're going to do a short practice before we go on, just so we could calm the system down and really drop into the present, into presence, and then we'll build it from there. So just where you are, you don't need to change anything about uh, your physical space right now. Just simply sit up and ground your feet. So if your knees are crossed or your ankles are crossed, just uncross them and feel your feet against the ground. And if you're sitting on a cushion, if you're sitting on a yoga mat, if you have been sitting all day and you really need to stand right now, go ahead and do that. I just want you to feel into your body in this moment and close your eyes. Just take a moment here, settling in. And try to relax in your seat and really land your weight into the body. So just really land your feet into the ground, land your seat into the chair. Really let your arms and hands feel heavy. Just drop the shoulders. And you could just take a moment here to even swallow, just swallowing down into the belly. Notice the parts of your body right now that are touching down. So, whether you're seated or whether you're standing, notice all the parts of you that are touching the chair, the floor. And now noticing your tall, strong, dignified spine. You might even notice the crown of your head reaching up towards the sky. And notice all the space there between the feet or the seat touching down and the crown of your head reaching up. And you might notice that you're getting distracted or you're thinking ahead or there's just random thoughts coming in or sounds. And that's really normal. And notice if there's also some critique there, this inner critic voice. And see if you could just imagine kind of cradling this inner critic voice and gently and kindly returning back into the body. So just kind of acknowledging that yes, there's thoughts, yes, there's distractions, and I could just begin again, coming back into the body just as it is. And just notice how that feels inside. To simply acknowledge and gently, with kindness, return back. Now, in this body based practice, I'd like to ask each of you to take your right hand and just place it on the heart center. So, really spread the fingers out, placing your hand on your chest. And bring all of your attention into that hand heavy on the chest. Just notice what that feels like, the weightedness. And you might even notice the body breathing, the expansion and contraction of the chest. You might notice the sensations of the breath. But try just to rest your attention in this weighted tenderness of the hand. And I'd like you to say to yourself, this body breathes. You could just say it silently to yourself. This body breathes. And you could say next, this heart loves. This heart loves. And lastly, say to yourself, the capacity of the heart is boundless. The capacity of the heart is boundless. May I tend to my heart well. And just again saying that to yourself. May I tend to this heart, to my heart well. And again, just noticing the body breathing. Noticing the weightedness of the hand against the chest. This tender, gentle touch of calm and compassion towards oneself. Maybe just take a deep breath here and just with the exhale, sighing the breath out of the mouth. And then in your own time, relaxing the hand down. And when you're ready, you could just gently open the eyes and invite the light of your space back in. So, how are you all feeling? There's a significant shift that happens. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment. There's a significant shift that happens when we just stop, acknowledge the body right where it's at. So I'm just kind of taking you through what we did. So just stopping, bringing your attention back into your body. Because when we're in the stress response, we actually leave our body. Energetically, we're just kind of somewhere else. And we've all had that experience before. right? Where we literally can't feel our feet against the ground. Um, and that disembodiment that happens is actually a result of being flooded with cortisol, right? So we got to come back. We got to come back in the body because that's where the work is. That's where the heart is of the work. So just coming back, acknowledging that we're in the body. So checking in, touching down, feeling your feet, noticing your spine, bringing your attention in to the belly, to the spine, to the feet, to your hands is very skillful for just interrupting when you're noticing that we're stressed, that we're in the stress response, that things are kind of spiraling out. And it's a critical step in doing any of these practices. And it's a great place to start. What we did next is we acknowledged the busyness of the mind. Just acknowledge, I'm distracted, the mind's busy. This is what I'm noticing. And what beginners don't realize is that that acknowledgement is actually where we get to flex the muscles of the mind, of the neural pathways. That's when they actually get strong, because noticing, actually acknowledging and noting is what it's called, is a moment of mindfulness. So it stops us in our tracks and it drops us into the present moment. Every time we do that, when we're in any practice, whether we're doing a metta practice or a mindfulness practice or a shamatha practice, which is actually a concentration practice, that acknowledgement of what's happening, or acknowledging when we've been pulled away from what's actually true in this moment, is critical. So we could do that 500 times in a short 5 to 10 minute practice, and we're doing a practice that's going to be of benefit. All right. So it does not ever mean that you're doing anything wrong. It means that you're actually practicing mindfulness. All right. What we layered on next was this touch. Okay. And there's different methods, but this hand on the heart, just hand on the heart, it's like someone coming up to you and putting their hands on your shoulders and saying, it's going to be okay. Or taking your hands and saying, I've got you. Right? So think of a grandmother, someone that's easy to love. That could be a way in. So when you touch yourself, if it feels corny, because it often does, right? We could just be real. Think about someone in your life, a child, a grandparent, a puppy, whatever it is, that's so easy to love, an uncomplicated relationship. Okay? And just that touch really calms the sympathetic nervous system from spiraling out. So when we're having a moment of incredible stress, when we're feeling anxiety bubble up, when we feel like we're disembodied, we could just simply go like this. So if you know me, you know, my husband, for instance, knows when I'm stressed because I'll just sit back and go like this because it's just become a natural response for me. Okay. And studies show that all people have natural responses to stress. So you may notice that you like rub the back of your neck, that you rub your temples. These are all points on the body that actually will do the same thing. Okay. And there's studies on this. As soon as we sit with our hands on our chest for just a few minutes, and I mean like 2 or 3 minutes, we automatically start releasing oxytocin in the blood, that connecting, bonding hormone that makes us feel loved. And so we're expressing that inward. And it's critical when we're constantly putting energy out to come back in and do these things as a practice. Why? So let's go back to the presentation. So these are the symptoms of compassion fatigue: physical exhaustion, that brain fog, when you just can't think, when you have the glasses on your head and you're looking for them, or you can't find your keys. Emotional overwhelm, of course, but relationally, this will show up as being very short-tempered, irritated, aggravated for no reason, or just flying off the handle. In Chinese medicine, we know that the kidneys, the organ of the kidneys, and the urinary bladder meridian are intimately connected with fatigue and stress related to chronic conditions, including compassion fatigue. So, what's interesting to me, because I'm fascinated by Chinese medicine, is that we also relate in Western medicine practices bladder infections or kidney infections with stress. And we see that in older populations, especially as they start getting disoriented cognitively, right? So that relational irritation, that flying off the handle, that really reactive response is a red flag. That red flag is a call to attend to self-care, a call to attend. And yes, can that mean running, right, on a trail or outside? Can it mean doing yoga? Can it mean lifting weights? It could mean a lot of different things. Can it mean reading a book or taking a bath? There's a lot of different ways to practice self-care. But when we're looking for significant cognitive and neurological benefits of practices, we could turn to mindfulness and compassion practices to really reap the benefits and understand how to self-regulate. So that's the key. Professionally, this could show up as feeling uninspired, right? Noticing that you just don't have anything in you that feels new or innovative. So we lose that creative and innovative pathway in the brain when we've gone too long without attending to each other, to ourselves. Any questions there? Okay. So how do we prevent it? We prevent it by dropping into present moment awareness. Because when we're in the stress response, 9 times out of 10, we're either, our mind is really far ahead. So I'm sure we could all relate to this in this day, in this moment, right? Our mind is going into everything we could imagine going wrong as the result of whatever happens today, right? Or we could get stuck in the past. We could start really ruminating over all the things that have already gone wrong. So when we're in the future or we're stuck in the past, we are definitely not right here together in the present moment. And in this moment that we're having together, everything's okay, right? In this very moment, we are here together and everything right now is okay. And that builds incredible resilience. When we come back to present moment awareness and we realize that the mind is making a lot of stories about things that may never happen or be true for that matter, or it's stuck in things that we could never change, that resilience comes from present moment awareness. And we build awareness through these practices. We're choosing every day to put our mask on first. That choice becomes a routine, and that routine matters in a big way. So I want you to pause for a moment and think about the last time that you took time to attend to yourself without judgment, without criticism, without praise, just pausing and saying, okay, what is the reality of my routine in self-care? Okay, just noting it. So how do we cultivate these simple practices to stay supported? They could be very simple. So I mentioned before that just 2 or 3 minutes matters. 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day is transformative. Okay? So imagine if we're giving ourselves even more time. Cognitively, studies show that consistent practices, 5 to 10 minutes a day for 30 days, has significant impact in the neural pathways and functionings of the brain. So we're going to commit, or I'm going to challenge you to commit to 30 days of practices like the ones we're doing today. And then I'm going to guide you to where you could find them within the platform. Okay? So what is a self-compassion break? A self-compassion break is 3 steps, and you're reading them right in front of you. But it's actually stopping, pausing when we're noticing that we're reactive, when we're noticing that we're not in our bodies, when we're noticing that we're feeling yanked around emotionally, when the mind is really spinning or ruminating, right? We could pause, and I was doing this with my kids last night watching the election results come in, saying, right now, this is hard. This moment right now is difficult. So whatever it is, whether it's watching, a really difficult situation unfold in front of you, whether it's facing a health crisis, whether it's standing beside someone that is suffering, right? We could just pause and acknowledge this is hard. The second step is to find or acknowledge the common humanity in this. So this is hard, and I know that I am not the only one right now feeling this. I am not the only person on the planet that has ever been through something that is very hard. I am not the only person in the world that is worried right now. So you could come up with your own words. It's actually a very important part of the process. So this is hard. I'm not alone. And I'm going to just be kind. Because what happens 9 times out of 10 when we're in the middle, we're in the midst, we're in the muck of a crisis or a hard moment, is this inner critic, the critic that I mentioned in the meditation, is actually really powerful and loud, right? So this inner critic exists in all of us. And when that inner critic comes up, it's really important to just acknowledge that the critic's there and say, you know what, I see that you're here and you're worried, but you know what, I'm just going to be kind to myself. And that kindness could just be putting the hands on the chest. It could be acknowledging that you have been through difficult moments before in your life, many of them, and you made it to the other side and you learned and grew. Right? So some of these affirmations can really come in here, but just these 3 steps will pull us out of this capacity to really just spiral out that you may or may not have. Okay? So this is hard. I know I'm not alone, and I'm going to choose kindness right now to myself and not be critical. And the most potent practice in all of this is the breath. And the breath is always with you. If you are alive right now, if you have a body, you're breathing. So just connecting to the body, connecting to the breath, and being kind. If you take 3 things away from our talk tonight, it's those 3 tools. And it's very simple. And simple doesn't mean easy. Okay? So it is a practice. It's a practice that we have to do with a lot of intention. So we have about 7 minutes left. I would like to take you into another breathing practice with meditation. And then I'm going to open up for the last few minutes for questions. So we're going to do about, oh, I lost all you guys. Oh, there you are. Sorry. Technical problems. So we're going to do a practice that is also a meditation, but focuses a lot on breathing. Okay. For any of you that might have asthma, I want you to know that if this feels difficult, if there's any trauma associated with the breath, which I have asthma and allergies, so it was really hard for me to get into some of the breath work. Just go back to your feet. Feel your feet against the floor. So when I guide you into the breath, if that feels overwhelming, just stay with a body part that feels supportive and not overwhelming. Okay. All right. So we're going to sit up again, nice and tall. It's important when we sit in any practice, in meditation and mindfulness specifically, excuse me, that the spine's really tall because we want the energy in the body to move through the body in a clean way. Okay, so just sitting up nice and tall, dropping the shoulders back and down, and grounding your feet against the floor. You could close your eyes if that feels supportive. Just taking a moment to settle into your body just as it is. So there's no need to change the body. You could just try to relax the shoulders back and down, maybe take a deep breath, and really let the exhale empty out completely. And again, just try to swallow. This swallowing relaxes the tongue and jaw and just brings our attention down into belly center. So noticing the feet against the floor, noticing the support of your seat, and then just taking a moment here to notice the breath, the body that breathes. So acknowledging right now that the body is breathing and we're not trying to control the breath or lengthen the breath. Just working with the breath as it is, this natural breath moving in and moving out. Now, see if you can get a little closer to the breath moving in and moving out, and note where you feel the breath most intimately moving in and moving out. That might be at the tip of the nose. You might feel it at the top of the lip. You might feel it at the bridge of the nose right before it dips down into the body. Perhaps you're noticing the breath in the chest or the belly or anywhere in between. See if you could just acknowledge this touch of the breath. And once you've identified where the breath is, see if you can rest your attention there for just a few moments. Of course, acknowledging that the mind will wander and the sounds will come and the body will ache. And we gently return back into this touch of the breath. And notice when the breath turns in, this in breath, that there's a vibrancy there, an energy, a wakefulness, oxygen coming in and infusing the body with energy. Just notice that vividness in the next inhale, that brightness in the in breath. And as the breath moves out, The out breath, the exhale, notice how the system responds. The exhale, relaxing the body, relaxing every cell. The exhale taking us deep and down into the belly center. The exhale, relaxing the system, relaxing the mind. And after this next breath out, see if you could just take a gentle pause before inviting the breath back in. This pause, which shouldn't feel uncomfortable, this gentle pause of awareness, of being in the body, empty of breath. The bottom of the exhale taking us deep inside. Just relaxing the method now, returning to a natural rhythm and noticing that subtle shift of calm. And you could open your eyes when you're ready. And that meditation went a little longer than I expected. So we are running out of time now. Um, and Kathy, I'm not sure if you want me to open it up for a couple questions. We could also have the group email me some questions and I could answer and respond. But I want you to just, if you just take one thing away from this presentation, I want you to know that if I could do this, if the thousands of people I've taught how to meditate, how to work with the breath and the body could do this, I know each of you can. So there's lots of tools and methods and practices. And if none of these resonated, trust that there's something out there for each of you. Kathy, we've provided a link for a free 14-day trial for everyone that's participated tonight and for anyone else in your group. Our platform connects people with expert teachers from all over the world. That
Great for like a up event.
I'm sorry? Was there a question? Okay. Okay, so that is our presentation for tonight. I know that you have other business to attend to. Gretchen and I've provided our contact information. If you would like any additional information that we could guide you to, or you have any questions.
I just wanted for a phenomenal 45 minutes. I apologize for the 2-year-old screaming mommy if I didn't get the mute button on fast enough when we began our little, but I will tell you that because of you, I hid in an office with the door shut and didn't hear the crying for the last 45 minutes.
That's really good to hear.
So, thank you so much for coordinating something so important for our own self-care.
You're very welcome. I hope that each of you will enjoy haven't been back. I apologize.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It was really wonderful. It's very timely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to also jump in and just say thank you. I think this is a great tool and technique we can use in our practice and our everyday lives. And I agree, this was very appropriately timed, although not necessarily planned.
Right.
And
for that.
I know Cheryl is muted, but actually, Cheryl, you may remember at like one of our opening meetings that we had a million years ago in February of this year, you were the one that said that you'd like to see something like this with regard to wellness, and I think it was.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because you can see I'm still at work because I have a hearing tomorrow, and this has helped me a lot to calm down and be less stressful. And plus, with the, like you said, with the election returns coming in and everything, it's a really stressful time. But I have to, yeah, it puts everything in perspective to just, you know, calm down and take your, like, I don't know, to not take yourself so seriously and things so seriously. So
Yeah. It feels counterintuitive at first, you know, to just step away. But if we just step away for 10 minutes and breathe and get back in our bodies, we actually save. So it makes us more productive. We can concentrate more. We can relate better. There's less reactivity. So trust that those 10 minutes will save you so much time in the long game, right? But it's just getting away. But the good news is you could just practice at your desk. So, you know, right? You don't have to actually, you know, try to add more to your plate. And so we want to reframe that for people, and just understanding that it's pretty easy to weave this into your busy day. That's the goal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
thank you.
Thank you all so much. I hope
I
you
find
have a good
myself
night. And we really appreciate your time tonight and look forward to hearing from you. Reach out if you have any questions, okay?
Thanks.
All
Now,
right.
just one, Kathy, do you need us to assign the meeting to you? Did you have some items you wanted to take care of outside of this?
Actually, I think we're good with the people that are on here. I think that we're all good. As I said, Megan and Jane will pick it up from here. They'll circulate it to the committee as a whole, the people who weren't here, the ability to access it, the ability for the 14-day trial, and then they'll be able to, you know, go through some of the items that they want to address for 2021. I think that'll be a good comprehensive way. So we're good. I think we're all
Thank
good
you.
and we're ready to, we're all re-energized now for the rest of our night.
Right. Good. Good. Well, enjoy your night. And we're going to send you the link to this recording. We'll keep it live for 30 days.
Okay, great. And Megan and Jane, you guys can take care of circulating all of that as well? So
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
Everyone, take
Good night.
care.
Bye.